Guys, so Monday morning, got a few little jobs on this week. One of them being we're taking that porch out, that cover, and we're putting in an oak pitched porch. But that's later on in the week. Today we're playing around with their staircase. Now I'm not quite sure how this is going to pan out, to be totally honest, but we will see. So basically putting a newel post there and potentially a half newel post there, and cutting all this out. So I've roughly marked what needs to be cut out for the moment, because we've got to just expose what we can, and then we'll have to cut the post to fit. So that's one of the jobs we've got to do. So it's going to be one of those interesting days, and see how it pans out. Some of you may remember we did this a few years back, or a year or so. We made these sliding doors for the client. So there's 3 of them in total. That's the middle panel, obviously. So that one is supposed to look more like looks more like that really. So we did that a few years back, and we also fitted their kitchen a few years ago. So now we're on to the next stage. We've got some skirting, some architraves, a couple of doors to replace, but the staircase is today's job. So I'm going to get a multi-tool out. I'm going to multi-tool those lines off just so we can expose just behind those areas and see where we're at, and we'll go from there. So this is fun and games. So what we've managed to do so far is we've worked out our width of our newel post, and we've cut this bit of capping off, and we've cut our skirting off. Now, as you can see, it's not brilliant. So what we're thinking is, rather than taking all this off, keep this as is, because we can just put a half newel there, half newel post there, which will help carry the handrail and give us a finish point. And then we've got this marked up now, so we've got that going to sit in there like that, and we've scribed it that side, and we've also put a rough scribe that side by measuring it, so it should look something like that. So that will encapsulate that whole corner. I'm going to take the hardboard off that's here, I'm going to multi-tool that off so this goes in a bit further, and then we'll play around with it a little bit more, and then we'll firmly glue and screw this newel post in there to that wood with the expanding glue, and hopefully that'll be solid as. We've already made sure it's plumb and level, and then once that's in, we can then look at that section, and then we can look at the base rail, and then work out our handrail. So the first job really now is just to cut this hardboard away, and then we can try and maximise the thickness of this timber at the bottom. So we've removed the hardboard, we've readjusted our newel post measurements. Moment of truth now. So we're going to get the track saw on this. I'm going to use the track saw. That one as a rest. And we're going to track saw these out, and then we're going to chisel and clean and get that scribed, and hopefully she'll fit lovely, but we won't know till we try. So let's get the stuff out and see how we get on. Okay, so we've got our small track out, we've got our track saw out, we've got one of our sliding rules. We're going to use our sliding rule just to make sure that that stays perfectly square. We're using our other newel post as a rest for the track to sit on. That way we get a nice clean straight plunge. It might help if we actually had a charged battery though. And Ricky's throwing things at me. Alright, so we check everything. Like I say. And as you can see, Ricky's dismantling the porch as we speak. Alright, so I'm going to do different plunge. I'm going to do 10-15 mil at a time, so I don't destroy my blade. Now I don't think this saw will do the full depth. Actually, I know it won't. Even at full depth, it ain't going to get me what I need. That's not a major issue. Okay, so we plunged that. What I'm going to do now, I just want to see what my depth of my plunge is. And I'll put a pencil mark there. Then I can then take it off a little bit by little bit. Yes, please, mate. So we've done our first scribe line. Got a nice even gap down that. And we're going to spin it and do the exact same thing again. But this time we need to come on the other side, so what we need to do is just spin that over, like so. This time our track is going to go on here, like so. And again, we're going to use our slide rule set to a depth to make sure that we're cutting the same. And I'm going to cut this first initial line, and then we're going to cut to our depth line, which is there. Using our slide rule again to make sure we get a straight line. Okay. So we already know we haven't got deep enough, because we've got to do the same sort of thing here now to take the worst of this off. So we're going to do the same again, just to take the worst of it off. Still not quite deep enough. She's not far off it though. Yeah, we're a little bit off, but not by much. Not by much. I'll take a little bit more off. Hopefully that will get us pretty much to our line. All we've got to do now is cut this line here. Cut this here and down there, and that'll give us our scribe, and then we can start playing around with the rest of it. And to get that line, what I'm going to try and do, let's come along it with our track. That's the worst of it. The rest of it, hopefully, we can get with the multi-tool. So chisel get in now. Sorry, mate. Leave them for now. We'll figure that out in a bit. Right, that's the bulk of it out. We've still got a few little bits here and there to get out. So that's the bulk of our material out. Now we just got to multi-tool the rest of it out until we get to where we want to be. It's quite simple now. Take that bit out. Another piece of it out. And it's pretty much to depth. Do the rest of that, clean the rest of that with the chisel. All we've got to do now, let's get the rest of it. So we're at depth that side. All we've got to do now is get this piece off. So we've got to basically repeat that exact same process with the multi-tool and the chisel, just nice and carefully, until we get where we need to be. Potentially, yeah. Okay, so we've got the bulk of it off. Now we just need to get the rest of this off. So we've got to get this little sliver off here and this little sliver off here. So again, with the multi-tool, just going to go along this edge. Unfortunately, I don't get the depth going this way with the multi-tool. It literally doesn't quite get the depth. So again, it's going to be a matter of just breaking it off carefully. Like so. Bit by bit. That way then we can get the multi-tool in there a bit deeper. And we can just progress along.
Okay guys, so some of you are probably wondering why I haven't done this with my table saw. One, because my table saw has got an intermittent fault with it and it's not turning on properly. I've got to get it sent off to get it repaired. And two, this is just a lot easier. I can see what I'm doing, whereas I'd have to be trying to do this with the cut being done into the wood. So this is just a lot easier. It may be a bit more time consuming, but I've got a bit more control over what I'm doing. And that's what matters in this situation. So I hope that answers that question. Now we need done, we can crack on and get this fitted.
And there we go. So that will cut out, nice and neat. We'll go and test fit it. Alright, let's see what she looks like. Hopefully it works. You have to do something with that bit of staircase, I think. But otherwise, it's looking pretty good that way. We need to make some modifications just on this stair tread. Maybe cut a groove in so the stair actually slides into it. So we can sort that out now. Okay. Cut that stair tread out now. Let's do that again with the multi-tool. Okay, go and cut that out and see if that makes a difference.
Okay, so what you're going to see me do here is I've just got to notch out just a little bit for where these stair treads come into the side of the Newel post. I'm just going to carefully chisel it away, little bit by little bit, just to get it, try and get it a nice tight fit. And then once I've done that, it should slide in nicely.
Let's see if we've gone deep enough.
So I've made this quite a tight fit, which is actually good, but it's going to take a little bit of persuasion, a little bit of tapping and banging with my hand, and just keep checking with the level to make sure I get it good as gold.
Alright, it's looking pretty damn good. Get a fixing in the bottom there, and then one in the top. She should be pretty good. One in the top there, and then kick the bottom in, one in the bottom. Happy days, she's in. So a little bit more out of there, just to allow that to sink in that bit more. Loads of glue, smothered in glue, and then we can fix that in there then. And that will go there, that will go there, and it should all line up quite nicely. Okay, so we took another little bit out of there. So what we're going to do now is smarm this with wood glue. And use a paintbrush to paint it round to get plenty of glue and adhesion on it. Make sure we get plenty. Yeah, it's a PVA one, but it's water resistant. We're going to go with this one. Shall we really smarm this up? Never put too much adhesive in, mate. Can you put some in that little kettle for me so that I can do the bits inside? Smarm that up. Now we're going to smarm this bit up. Watching for the carpet, obviously. Alright, can put more glue on that if I wanted to. Okay. I know this might be a bit overkill, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. Okay, first thing we're going to do is get a screw. Up the top here. And then we're going to put it level this way. Lovely that way. Sorted, absolutely solid. Once that glue goes off, that'll be even stronger. That's it. That Newel post is on. Now we can put the carpet back down and the underlay back down, have a tidy up, and then we can start looking at the rest of it. That just needs a pin putting back in there, down there and in there, just to secure that back on, because that's all started coming away. Then we can put our Newel post at the top, base rail, and start thinking about our handrail. So let's get stuck in. We're going to put the underlay back down, so we've got it roughly in place, and we're going to use my hammer stapler just to hammer it down. That's it. And I'm just going to use my carpet bolster beautiful. I hardly know we'd been here. Obviously it's a little bit slack there now, but it is what it is. But other than that, pin on that, hold that back in place. Happy days. So that's the carpet back down, it's the Newel post in. She's solid enough for what we need. Once the glue goes off, we'll fill all those screw holes up, because it's all going to get painted. So next job, little Newel post or half a Newel on there, up to the ceiling, and then we can start figuring out our actual staircase height, spindle height and that. Then put the base rail on, etc. So next job is get that done. Now what I did do, I actually bought a whole Newel post because I didn't know whether we could get away with a half. So I'm debating whether to sail it round the corner, but I don't think that would look very good. But at the same time, this line here isn't going to look too clever either, really, because it doesn't quite go flush there. But I'm sort of trying to keep it all looking a bit neater. It could have done with going probably a bit over a bit more, but it is what it is. Anyway, let's have a look at that piece. I'm coming up with a bit of a game plan, but anyway. Okay, so as I was saying before I got rudely interrupted by a phone call, Ricky's just filling up the holes. What we've done is we've shaved this off to make it look like the Newel post sails all the way down, so he's going to fill all that up nice and flush now. So what I'm thinking is half a Newel, but cut it so it comes down to this point and carry that angle so it looks like it's intentionally brought down up to the ceiling. And if you look up there, I don't know if you can see it, but that bit of boarding is it sticks out anyway, so if I did the same here, it would basically marry up with what's up there. So I'm thinking that's what we're going to do, just a half a Newel from here up, bring it down here somewhat so it looks like it was intentional, and then we'll screw and glue it to that nice and plumb, and then we'll handrail will then basically go from there up to the ceiling and across just a tad so that we get the same height. So we're maximising the height of the handrail, and then the spindles. I think that sounds like a plan. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to rip this half Newel post down to the right length. So I bought a whole Newel because I didn't know whether I was going to do something like I did there and cut the back out and scarf the back out and overlap and encase the whole corner, but I don't think it would look right. So I think I'm going to go with my idea. So I'm going to cut it to the length I want, rip it down, and then go from there. So after having a chat with the client, we've come up with a plan. So what we've done, cut that out, we've ripped our Newel post down like so, and that will slot in there just like that, and that's it plumb, and then it will then marry up with the line upstairs with a bit of decorator's cork. So we're going to countersink that and plug it and screw it to the wall, and then we can go ready for our handrail. Okay, so we've secured that bit of Newel post now to the wall. As you can see, we've also cut our base rail. We've worked out our mitre just with a mitre gauge, and we've cut our first Newel post with the same mitre and a little offcut of handrail, so it doesn't come right to the top. We're going to go as close to it as possible. So from that we can now start working out what our levels are going to be. So I can cut another one exactly the same as that, and we can see where it gets us on here, and we'll go from there. When it comes to cutting your spindles, really simple. Mark them out, so you get your mitre, bosh like that, and have a stop. So mitre one end, so mitre your first end, put it to your stop, mitre the other end, and you can just repeat that process for all your spindles pretty much, except for the ones you have to do slightly different. But that's how we're going to do it. So we've now got 2 spindles cut, so we're going to temporarily put these in just to give us an idea on the length of the handrail that we need to do. So let's work on that. If we mitre the handrail right, we will get pretty much a full rail in there. So I can just tag this to there for now, and then I can get some measurements for the handrail, and then we can make it so that the handrail will go straight in there. Bang, job done, simple as. I reckon that'll look alright. Rather than putting a straight bit across, I think we should be alright like that, but we'll see. If we have to do it any other way we can. I think that will work quite nicely. Let's see how it goes. So after a little bit of jiggery pokery and a little bit of scribing, we got that. I don't think that looks too bad. Finishes it nicely, I think. I mean, we could put a return in, but I don't think it would be beneficial for the little piece that it's going to be. So I'm going to take these up, and I'm going to get the client just to have a look at it and see if they're happy with that, and if they are, that's how it's going to be done, and then they'll get the spindles all cut. Happy days. Looking good. So you know how I got my angles. I used one of these. It's just nothing special. It just sits in there like that. Oops, it sits there like that. That gives you your angle. That clamps it. This is a Wolfcraft one. It's nothing special. Then all you do, you put that on your saw, and you just adjust your bevel. I know it was 41 degrees. I can line it up with that line, but I can also move it over a tad, line it up with my saw blade like so. That gives me my degrees, that gives me my angle. So that was pretty simple. So that angle then represents the bottom of your, so that angle is there, angle for your base rail, which is there, and you'll measure from longest point to the shortest point. So you do your first mitre, then you measure from the long point, and you'll mark your short point, do your cut, happy days. I was a little bit short, I put a little piece in there, but it's all going to be decorated, so once that's rubbed down it'll be lovely. And then obviously the handrail, we use the same mitre as the base rail to do that one, and then we just cut it oversized, sailed it up behind the wall, scribed it, which you can see my pencil marks. I scribed it longer than required, and then carefully took a little bit off at a time, adjusting the angle to get it as tight as I could, and that I'm happy with. So if the client's happy with that finish, we will then work out our spacings accordingly, which I use my little calculator for. I'll work out that spacing, cut all our spindles, all our spacers, throw them in, pin them in, screw that handrail into there, screw that handrail probably up through into the ceiling because there'd be a timber across there, so we get a nice solid fixing up there. Happy days, and it'd be rigid as. So I just got to wait for the client to give me the okay on that, and once that's done we can get stuck in again. And if you haven't noticed, Ricky's already pulled the porch down. Happy. So we're going to have to fill these holes up. There is a cavity of some description, but there's probably a lintel over there. Yeah, two lintels, and there's a very thin cavity. So we'll have to put a brick in there or something in that one and that one. And in behind that gate is the new canopy. It's basically the porch. It's not going to be light, so putting this up is not going to be fun. So I'm not quite sure when and how we're going to do this yet. I've got to get some really heavy duty bolts. I have to drill some bolts through that. I'm going to have to resin it all up. I've got some acros down the garage, so what I might do tomorrow when we do it is we'll put the gallows brackets up first, and then I'll put some acro props down, and we'll put a brace between them so that it keeps the distance right. We'll put some acros underneath it, and we'll then lift that up on top, get it so it's all correct, mark all our bolt holes out, drill it, resin fix them properly solid, let that go off, bolt them all up and grind the heads off, get some proper bolts in that, and then we'll have to figure the rest out. And then obviously I assumed it came with a full kit, so I assumed there'd be some sort of roofing felt, roof battens, the slate, but it doesn't come with any of that, so that all needs to be taken into consideration as well. And a bit of lead flashing. It's not really something I'd be involved in. I assumed it was a full kit and wasn't thinking just that, but we will see how things pan out. We've worked it all out. We've got 9 spindles total. We've secured our handrail in now, so our handrail been screwed through there with some screws, and we've also put a nice long screw through there, so that will now get filled up. And because that's a double trimmer carrying upstairs, we've put 200mm screws straight up through there, so that is going absolutely nowhere. So now we've got to do is work out our spacing, which we've already done.
And this is the calculations from the app that's double done for me.
Into the app, and we did the slope and we did the minimum spacing. Minimum spacing of any spindle is 100mm, or 90mm I should say. 900mm, get it right. 900mm is your minimum spacing, basically so your child's head can't go through the gap. I've set my spacing at 85, which gives me a sloped spacing of 103, 9 spindles and 10 gaps, so I need 20 spacers. So that's quite straightforward, so we can get 20 spacers now cut and we can get stuck in. See you in a bit. So that's the spindles all done, just a bit of decorator's cork and a bit of filler for the decorator to do. Happy days. And there we go. Nice solid handrail, absolutely solid. Ain't going nowhere. Customer's well happy. So that's that bit done. So next job is to hang 2 doors, which we need to sort out. Some architrave to sort out, bits and pieces, so we're just going to make a start on them now. See you soon. So we're pretty much done for today. I've got to pick up a load of architrave and skirting now and know what they want to replace. So today we've cut that door in, removed skirting out here. That window is going, so we've got to notch that out a bit more yet. New architrave there, both sides of that one. All new skirting through here and behind the bed. We've cut a new door in there, so just got to get some handles and some door furniture for those. But yeah, new skirting down there as well. So yeah, we're getting there. Obviously we've taken this handrail off. We're going to get a small length of pig's ear handrail. We're going to put a bit of pig's ear handrail there. And obviously we've done Newel posts and what have you there. So I know that sticks out, but I've basically replicated what's happening here, there. So this is all nicely rounded off and filled and solid as. So that's all that done. And then obviously Ricky's taking all that out. So tomorrow we are going to cut these half bricks out in there and here, as they've asked us to do that as well. So all that muck, anywhere there's muck, we will cut all that out, and we're going to re-brick all of that, re-brick that tomorrow. And then Wednesday, when that's gone off a bit, we can then look at putting the gallows brackets up with some aqua props, get the main body of the new porch up, and then for Thursday we'll look at the roofing side of it. So we're on track anyway. Don't forget guys, like, share, follow, subscribe to that YouTube channel, and we will see you tomorrow morning, same place, same time. Bye bye.